These are maybe not the snappiest Jays of all time, but they're snap judgments nevertheless. They're brought to you by Buyers Auto. That's Bill Landis, Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. And over the weekend, Berm, as we wrapped up another camp day for Ohio State, number 3. But after the official visits on Sunday, you did allude to this on Monday and talk about it a little bit at Roosters, but we didn't get into a snap judgment on Faheem Delane.
Yeah, I don't know that snap has to, you can snap a little later. I think sometimes it's good to take a step back and think about everything that has happened and how every commitment impacts other things. And, from a big picture perspective with Faheem Delane, you get a player Ohio State's recruited extremely hard for almost 2 years now. You get what is probably the biggest win for Matt Guerrieri. I mean, even though it was a team effort with Ryan Day and Tim Walton both being heavily involved in Faheem Delane's recruitment, but it's a situation where you now have 3 safeties, and there's going to be some difficult conversations and discussions heading into this coming weekend when you have official visits scheduled for Messiah Delhomme, who's a highly ranked safety from Virginia. And then looming out there is the Trey McNutt recruitment, which, of course, being an Ohio State legacy, a kid from Shaker Heights, Ohio, everyone wants to know, is he going to be the 4th safety? I don't know that he's going to be, and I think that when you look at the overall impact of Faheem Delane, what his biggest or most important value number is that he is the guy that if you do lose Trey McNutt, you have Faheem Delane, who's the number 2 ranked safety in the country.
Bill, Berm described him as sort of a hybrid between Lathan Ransom and Ronnie Hickman, which sounds like a decent thing for Ohio State to be looking for.
Yeah, so that's more of an in-the-box guy, right?
He's definitely more of an in-the-box guy, but he is slightly bigger. He's a bigger he's closer to Ronnie Hickman than he is Lathan Ransom, I think, from an athletic standpoint. But as far as the cerebral side of the game, I think he's more Lathan Ransom. So that's where the hybridness comes in.
It's a nice combo. And I do think, as I've thought about this defense more and more, and the secondary in particular, it seems like maybe they don't necessarily want sort of that true center fielder type of safety, only because with the way that Jim Knowles moves everybody around and wants to move everybody around, you sort of have to have that skill set and willingness, I think, to play down in the box and function as more of a linebacker at times. So if you can get the best of both worlds, which is the cerebral ability to kind of think the game and play that center field or cover somebody man-to-man, but then also stick your helmet in there and play a second-level defender against the run, that's the sweet spot. I know those guys don't come around very often, which is why I guess Faheem Delane is ranked as highly as he is.
Well, the difference is when you look back at the Malik Hooker type that Ohio State, everyone wants that guy. That guy just doesn't really exist that often.
Right.
But it is also, to your point, I mean, when you're playing this 3-safety defense, it's a little bit different. And it's not like what Ohio State did with Jeff Hafley when you had Jordan Fuller playing that true center field. This is not a one deep safety and let him roam the field. So if you look at the current Ohio State safeties, Caleb Downs is certainly not the traditional deep center fielder type, but he's the best safety in the country.
Berm, if this one doesn't feel like a major surprise for Ohio State, I think you started writing an analysis for him 6 months ago.
I wrote the analysis in February.
Yeah. So was there a waiting period to get to know Matt Guerrieri? What was the process? Why did it take up till this point? Not saying that it took too long, just felt like you were anticipating this for a while.
Well, I mean, there was a point when Faheem was on a Bermanology with me, I think back in October or November, he said his best relationship with any coach in the country was with Perry Eliano. And his best head coach relationship with anyone was with Ryan Day. So you knew the Buckeyes were very much in the mix. There was a lot of hinting at it months ago, and then the decision to not retain Eliano happened. And it was going to take some time to get comfortable with Matt Guerrieri and making sure that he's the right guy for Faheem's future. And what they've really found is that Guerrieri is he's a football nerd guy, similar to what Matt Barnes was when Matt was here. But he's also a guy that's been in this system and not being forced into sort of a square peg into a round hole. He understands what Jim Knowles wants, and he's going to be able to get the best out of it. And then they've just built that relationship. And again, then Tim Walton got very much into the mix there, and it's a perfect fit for Ohio State. But yeah, Ohio State was, I don't want to say they were worried about LSU and Oregon, but there were a number of trips to LSU and Oregon that happened over the last 6 months. And so there were official visits scheduled for each of those schools, and they got here, and like we talked about it on Roosters, like how many trips do you need to take? Like there's, I understand you want to do the party thing and you get celebrated and wined and dined, but at some point this stuff gets tiring for these kids.
It's an interesting comparison to Matt Barnes. I was watching Matt Guerrieri a lot on Tuesday at the Woody. He seems way more vocal, outgoing, and hands-on with the recruits, campers, prospects maybe than Barnes. I'm not trying to make a one-for-one comparison.
On the field, it's night and day.
Yeah.
In the conversation, in the personal conversations, I think it's more similar. But out here, what you see out of Matt Guerrieri is a lightning rod.
Yeah.
Juice.
And I think that was, I think the question that we got a lot when he was brought back after the 1-year stay at Indiana was like, can he recruit? What are the relationships like? How's he going to be? Is it just because of his knowledge of Jim Knowles' system that he's coming here? And clearly Ryan Day had spent enough time around him to know that, or have an idea what he was getting. Jim Knowles certainly did from the schematic and coaching side. But if there had been uncertainty about the recruiting stuff, that feels like Ohio State can be pretty confident about that.
I would feel better about it for sure. Like, this seems like it was a team effort. So I guess I don't want to give Matt Guerrieri like an outsized portion of the credit here, but certainly he deserves some. And I was worried / curious about how that would go. And I thought that this recruitment in particular was going to be a pretty good indication of that. It was a bit odd to me because I know Ohio State has been burned by safeties, obviously, the last couple of years. And I think because of that, moving on from Perry Eliano was probably warranted. But at the same time, I think everyone knew that the relationship between Perry and Faheem Delane was very strong. It was like, well, if Perry can win that one, like maybe he gets the ball rolling and then he gets replaced. And you're like, oh man, is Ohio State going to have to kind of go back to square one and figure out how to recruit safeties all over again? And to Matt Guerrieri's credit and Ryan Day and Tim Walton, like they figured out a way to close the deal. And it actually leaves me wondering now, like, so Faheem Delane commits, we know Caleb Downs is here. Is this defense becoming something of like a destination defense for safeties? Like, does it take that one or two to make everyone else a believer in what Ohio State is selling?
The Caleb Downs impact, like that was brought up by Faheem Delane's dad. Like it's something that they know, like, okay, that kid chose to play for this guy and in Jim Knowles' system. Like if that's something that Caleb Downs is choosing, it's certainly going to open the door for others. I think when you're talking about the percentage of who gets credit, like Matt Guerrieri, fair or unfair, is probably going to get an outsized portion of the blame if Trey McNutt ends up somewhere else, right? Yeah. Like that's just the business. But when Perry Eliano left, Perry Eliano was very, very good at the relationship side of recruiting. It's just I don't think people knew or trusted him as the safeties coach at Ohio State because he'd never coached safeties before. Yeah. He coached corners when he was at Cincinnati. He came here on the back of Sauce Gardner winning awards and being a top 10 player, Kobe Bryant winning awards, and like then he got here and he's coaching a position he's never coached, and I just don't think it translated from the relationship side to the development side. Matt Guerrieri, I think because he has the ability to explain this defense and the safety's role in it better than Eliano did, I think it's a salve over things. Yeah. Now, Ohio State still has to catch up or play a little catch up with the recruitment and relationship of Dorian Brew, who was very involved with Perry Eliano. Tim Walton was there as well, but that was another one where Eliano left and it's like, oh, now we don't know what's going to happen. So we'll see how that goes when he makes his official visit over the June 21st weekend. But right now in the secondary, and it's not just safeties, it's a destination defense in the secondary.
Yes, good point.
You have commitments from the number 1 ranked corner in the country, the number 2 ranked corner in the country, the number 2 ranked safety in the country. With Dorian Brew's number 4 ranked corner in the country, like there's good things coming. As I said, Deshaun Stewart and Cody Haddad are joined by Faheem Delane, so you got 3 safeties. You'd like one more. I don't know who it's going to be, but
Does it have to be a high school senior, Berm?
No, but I mean that's still the way Ohio State wants to build things here. It does pose an interesting question or an interesting topic when you look at the potential development of Malik Hartford or Jalen McClain or Jaden Bonsu or one of these other guys, because as you head into the 2025 season, there's going to be 2 open spots there that are going to be pretty important for them to fill. So you could see Ohio State, I guess it depends on how the season goes.
Right.
You win a national championship, maybe it's easier to...
yeah, but I just wonder, I'm not saying you have to make up your mind in June, but like with the 3 that they already have, could there be a world where you leave some flexibility for yourself?
The flexibility comes, like, again, Messiah Delome is a player that I already mentioned, but if he's supposed to visit Ohio State this coming weekend, if something happens and that visit doesn't occur, then I think maybe that's Ohio State saying, we're willing to take a step back, we'll play the long game with Trey McNutt, and we'll see if that doesn't work out, then you can look at the portal. But I don't think that's the intention.
Sure.
And as you head into this weekend, as long as that visit's still on, it indicates to me that they're still looking at a prep guy to take that 4 spot.
Gotcha. Well,
can I ask a question to satisfy my own curiosity while we're talking secondary? Naeem offered in like Alabama and Oregon, is that like a thing, or is that just welcome to the world of recruiting the best corner in the country?
That's more than anything else. I mean, Ohio State is well aware of the fact that if you're recruiting 5-star players from the heart of SEC country, there is going to be some speed bumps in the road. Alabama hosted Naeem offered twice last week, once for an unofficial visit / camp day, once for an official visit. Alabama was not in the picture 3 months ago. They're going to be in the picture. Like, it's Alabama. Now, they're going to come out. They have to prove that this new coaching staff can win games at the same rate that Nick Saban did, and maybe that's all moot if we're heading into November and they have 4 losses, but we don't know exactly. That seems unlikely because their coach is pretty good.
Yeah.
And they're still going to have a lot of talent, but it's like the Jeremiah Smith recruitment. It's like any other of these 5-star battles. Like, you are going, especially when you're dealing in the heart of SEC country, like, you have a player committed from Birmingham, Alabama. Like, that is, I don't know the last time Ohio State had an Alabama player committed. I think it was like 1981, something like that, when I was doing the research when Naeem committed. Like, this is going to be a fight. The way you keep a player like that committed is Devin Sanchez, is Faheem Delane, is Dorian Brew. It's the idea, like, we are coming in and not just going to be the best defensive back group in this class, but maybe the best 3-man cornerback group who's ever signed in one school at one time. Like, that's how you promote it. So we go to 2017. Ohio State had Sean Wade, Jeff Okudah, Marcus Williamson, Damon Arnett. Not Damon Arnett. He was 2016. Kendall Sheffield, like, who was a 5-star JUCO transfer at that point. Like, you had 4 guys who were in the top 6 of the cornerback room in the country. So you can do it. It's a little harder now with NIL, but on the same side, it's actually a little easier now with NIL because
easier here than other places.
It's easier now because you can have conversations, and we talked about this with Jakeem Stewart a week ago. When you have a player from that part of the country, Ohio State 10 years ago would not have even gotten the batter's box. And now you can say, hey, we can do this. We have the resources to compete. And then it becomes the traditional things of proximity to home and all that stuff. But Naeem, from my conversations, from what he tells the coaching staff here, there's nothing to worry about. Does that mean come December, there's not going to be a hiccup?
Sure.
Can't say, but as long as he keeps saying the right things, he'll be here next week. So, like, it's a better situation than if he had been here on June 1st weekend. He's coming here the last weekend with Devin Sanchez, with David Sanders, with Tavian St. Clair, with, like, all those other guys. Yeah. So, like, it's a big weekend for them to be like, hey, this has been fun, but are you in or out? So, yeah.
Well, Ohio State took their swing with Faheem Delane, and they connected. He is committed to the Buckeyes, and we have been talking about that on Snap Judgment. They're brought to you by Buyers Auto. Thanks for joining us. That's Bill Landis and Jeremy Birmingham. I'm Austin Ward. We'll talk to you tomorrow.